Hey guys, tonight, we stand wedged between two strangers on a subway platform, your shoulder brushing against a guy who's clearly had too much cologne while someone behind you breathes a little too enthusiastically into your personal space. The train doors open almost and then slam shut again. A robotic voice mutters an apology, and just like that, the train leaves without you. It's rush hour, you're late, you're already sweating, and now you're stuck here like a half-toasted panini wondering if this is how it ends, suffocated not by fate, but by public transportation. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, where are you listening from? Drop your location and the local time in the comments. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step back from the crowd, the noise, the glitching overhead screen, and do something strange. You let go. Not of the pole you're holding, but of the urge to control what you can't. The subway isn't yours to fix. The schedule doesn't answer to you, but your breath. Your reaction. That's still home turf. This is Stoicism 101, the dichotomy of control. It's Epictetus, the ex-slave turned philosopher, reminding you that everything in life falls into one of two buckets: what you control and what you don't. Your thoughts. Yours. Your job promotion. Not entirely. Your reaction to that guy elbowing you in the ribs, absolutely yours. Historians still argue whether Epictetus came to this idea from deep study or sheer survival instinct. When your leg's been broken by a master and your freedom stripped away, you either break further or build something stronger within. And that's what you're doing here, oddly enough, on a platform that smells like damp concrete and vending machine despair. You're building a moment, one where you don't snap, one where you notice you can choose. Not the train, not the traffic, but this inner posture that says, okay, that sucked. Now what? A lot of modern life feels like you're being yanked around by a leash. Emails, algorithms, social expectations. But Stoicism hands you a pair of scissors and says, cut it. Control only what's truly yours. You pull out your phone, no rage texting the group chat, no doom scrolling Twitter, just one long exhale. And maybe a reminder typed into your notes app. Only my mind is mine. Fun tidbit. In ancient Rome, there were Stoic philosophers who practiced letting go by walking barefoot through the marketplace on purpose to remind themselves they didn't need to win the day to be free. Their feet hurt, but their souls soared. Or at least that's what the footnotes say. The train finally arrives. This one opens its doors. You step on, not victorious, not zen, but calm enough to make eye contact with your reflection in the window and think, okay, that was annoying, but it didn't own me, and that's the beginning of freedom. A soggy morning commute becomes a quiet Stoic classroom on perception. You shuffle onto the sidewalk umbrella-less, and now officially damp. Your socks are on that tragic edge of soggy where every step sounds like betrayal, and your jacket, once proudly labeled water-resistant, has clearly surrendered to the rain gods. Normally this would ruin your morning. A wet start often spirals into spilled coffee, traffic tantrums, and that one email from Carl in accounting that somehow triggers an existential crisis. But today, you pause. You feel the rain slide down your cheek, not dramatic like a movie tear, just present. You're in it. This is where perception, the Stoic second principle, quietly sneaks in and takes the wheel. It's not about what's happening, it's about how you frame it. Marcus Aurelius, yes, the emperor who somehow wrote meditations in the middle of wars and plagues, penned this gem. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. Translation. The rain didn't insult you, your interpretation did. Historians still argue whether Marcus wrote these lines in moments of despair or as a morning ritual before battles. But what we do know is that his inner lens was always polishing the external mess into something tolerable, sometimes even beautiful. So you walk slower. Let the drizzle bead on your skin. You notice how the city glows a little more when it's wet, like the pavement decided to wear eyeliner. A toddler splashes in a puddle and grins like they've won the lottery. And just like that, your ruined commute becomes a meditation in motion. Modern Stoics call this reframing, taking the ugly, the annoying, the unwanted, and twisting the camera angle just enough that you see texture instead of tragedy. It's like rain, annoying when you're rushing, but calming if you treat it like a free sensory experience. And hey, it's not lava, you're not melting. You're just mildly damp and overly dramatic, and that's okay. Here's a lesser-known Stoic tidbit. Cleanthes, a student of Zeno, used to train his mind by carrying heavy water jugs for no reason. When asked why, he said he was testing his judgments. You don't need a jug. Just let the world be as it is and see what judgment pops up, then question that judgment. You duck into a cafe. The heater greets you like an old friend. Your reflection in the glass, a bit frizzy, a bit windblown, but kind of heroic. Like someone who didn't fight the storm, just walked through it with their eyes open. And as the barista hands you that warm cup, your hands wrap around it like it's more than coffee. It's a trophy. Not because you survived something big, but because you reframed something small. And that's what most days are made of anyway. Tiny, forgettable moments made meaningful by attention. You sip, you smile, you're still damp, but you're not bitter. You're practicing Stoicism. You're at the base of your building holding coffee in one hand, a backpack slung over one shoulder, and staring at the elevator's glowing red out of order sign like it just personally insulted you. 7 floors, that's all. Just 7 flights of stairs between you and the mediocre cereal waiting in your apartment. You glance toward the stairwell, hesitate then, mutter something passive-aggressive to the air, something like, "Great. I totally wanted to do leg day in business shoes." But then something shifts. You grip the rail and start climbing. Welcome to Stoic principle number 3, voluntary discomfort. The art of doing something mildly inconvenient on purpose to remind yourself that you're stronger than you think. Epictetus. Our sarcastic favorite once advised his students to practice saying no to pleasure and yes to hardship. Not because he was a masochist, but because he understood this strange law of the universe. Comfort makes you soft, and softness doesn't survive chaos. Historians still argue whether Epictetus actually walked barefoot in snow just to prove a point, or whether that was just Stoic folklore. But the idea stuck. Test yourself now when you can choose the discomfort, so that later when you can't choose, it doesn't destroy you. You reach the 2nd floor, thighs already murmuring a protest. And now you remember you really should stretch more. By the 3rd floor, your brain starts negotiating. Maybe I can stop at 4 and pretend it was 7. Who would know? But a quieter voice inside whispers, you would. So you keep going. This is the modern version of a Stoic gym. No audience, no Instagram stories. Just you, gravity, and the slow realization that discipline isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a silent climb, 1 step at a time with no applause at the top. And by the 5th floor, your breathing sounds like you just ran a marathon in wet jeans, but there's something satisfying about it. Your body is awake, your mind is clearer. There's no elevator ping, no automation, just effort and the tiny triumph of doing something hard without needing a reason. Want a weird Stoic tidbit? Cato the Younger, a Roman senator and hardcore Stoic, used to wear deliberately unfashionable clothing to public events so people would judge him and he could practice not caring. That's right. He made fashion faux pas philosophical. You hit the 7th floor, keys in hand, shirt slightly damp, chest rising and falling like a wave, but inside quiet pride. You chose the stairs, you chose the harder path, not because you had to, but because discomfort builds the kind of strength that doesn't depend on mood Wi-Fi or someone else telling you you're doing great. So next time life throws a metaphorical or literal broken elevator at you, remember you've got legs, and more importantly, you've got will, and no one can press that button for you. You find yourself standing at the edge of a quiet cemetery, hands in your pockets, unsure why you even walk this way. The sun is low, casting long shadows that make the headstones seem taller than they really are. You hadn't planned to come here, maybe it was instinct, or maybe it was one of those weird days where the noise of life makes you crave the one place where no one is talking. You start walking slow and deliberate, reading names etched in stone. Margaret born 1928, Anthony passed in 03. Some graves are covered in flowers, others haven't been touched in years. And then it hits you, this could be you. Not in a panic-stricken way, not a horror movie thought, more like a gentle whisper, this is where we're all headed. Every single one of us. You probably won't survive the century. Sorry. This is the Stoic principle of memento mori. Remember, you will die. Sounds heavy, right? But for the Stoics, it's not macabre. It's a wake-up call, a gentle daily reminder that life is precious because it ends. Seneca wrote, "You act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire," which is his classy Roman way of saying you waste time like it's endless, but panic over things that don't matter. And tonight, standing between the resting places of 100 strangers, you feel it how finite this all really is. Historians still debate whether Seneca's obsession with death came from his philosophy or the fact that he lived under one of Rome's most paranoid emperors. Either way, his words hit different when you're surrounded by silence and stone. You stop at a bench under an old tree. The bark is cracked like time's fingerprints. You sit watching a squirrel scramble between plots, entirely unaware that it's prancing over centuries of forgotten worries. And you think, if I died tomorrow, what would I regret? Not what you bought or owned. Not how many emails you sent, probably not that awkward Zoom call last week, but maybe you'd regret not calling that one person, or not starting the project you've been too busy for, or maybe just not taking more deep breaths like the one you're taking now. Fun Stoic trivia. In ancient Rome, some philosophers kept skulls on their desks, not for decoration, but as reminders. A bit extreme, sure, but if you've ever scrolled TikTok for 3 hours straight, maybe a skull isn't the worst idea. You stand up, brushing dirt from your hands, feeling strangely calm. There's something honest about a place that doesn't lie to you. The dead have nothing left to pretend. And for once, neither do you. As you head back toward the noise of the living, your steps feel slower, but your mind feels sharper. You're not haunted. You're humbled. You're not scared, you're awake. And maybe that's what death quietly was trying to give you all along. You're in the shower, mid-rant internally, of course, rehashing a conversation from earlier that left you simmering. Someone said something snide, maybe at work, maybe online, and instead of brushing it off like a chilled-out monk, you're in here writing Oscar-worthy clapbacks in your head. You lather your shampoo with a little extra aggression. Maybe this line would have shut them up. Maybe you should have gone full sassy courtroom drama. Maybe you'll still send that email. But then, through the steam, another voice enters, not theirs, not yours, but Marcus Aurelius's. The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury. In other words, don't become the person you're mad at. Welcome to Stoic principle number 5. Anger is not power, it's leakage. Seneca didn't mince words when it came to rage. He called anger a brief madness, a condition that hijacks the mind and hands it over to impulse. His essay on anger reads like a letter to every human who's ever punched a wall, burned a bridge, or regretted a text. Spoiler alert, that's all of us. Historians still argue whether Seneca wrote it to process his own volcanic temper or to appease Emperor Nero, the human embodiment of a red flag. Either way, his point sticks: when you give in to anger, you give away control, the one thing a Stoic guards most. You rinse off. The rage simmers. Not gone, but different. You realize it wasn't just what they said, it was how it made you feel small. That's what stings: the sudden shrinking, the flare-up of self-doubt. But if someone else's words can shrink your peace, maybe your peace wasn't as fortified as you thought. Time for some weird Stoic trivia. Chrysippus, an early Stoic, apparently died of laughter after watching a donkey eat fermented figs. Why is this relevant? Because the same guy who emphasized logic and emotional control also reminded us that absurdity exists and sometimes it wins. Maybe not everything deserves a duel. Maybe some things are just donkeys and fermented fruit. You towel off calmer now. And instead of revenge, you rehearse silence. Not the cold, icy kind. The kind that says, I could respond, but I choose peace. Because here's the Stoic truth: you don't need to win arguments to win peace. Later that day, you see the person again. They smile like nothing happened. You nod. Not because you've forgotten, but because you've reclaimed yourself. Their behavior didn't mold you, your reaction did. And tonight, as you slip into bed, you realize real strength doesn't roar, it lets go. You're patting your pockets. Once, twice, slower the third time, as if maybe the wallet will magically reappear if you move your hands just a bit more sincerely. You check the backpack, the floor, under the couch cushions. Nothing. Gone. Vanished. And suddenly you feel it, that hot flash of panic rising from your stomach to your throat. Cards, ID, cash. That one crumpled receipt you swear you needed for taxes. How could you lose something so important? You flop into a chair, head in hands, as your mind begins sprinting down the worst-case scenario tunnel. Identity theft, late-night phone calls to banks, perhaps even becoming a nomad because now you have no proof of who you are. Then, like a soft mental knock on the door, something Epictetus once said surfaces. Never say of anything, I have lost it, but say, I have returned it. And just like that, the spiral slows. This is Stoic principle number 6. You own nothing, not really. You're a borrower in a temporary arrangement with life. Your wallet borrowed, your job borrowed, even your body. Yep, borrowed too. Historians still debate whether Epictetus adopted this belief from Cynic philosophers before him, or if it grew out of his own experience being enslaved and having nothing. But regardless of the origin, the logic holds: if nothing is truly yours, then nothing can be truly taken. You take a breath, think about it. That wallet served its purpose until it didn't. And now the real challenge isn't finding it, it's letting it go. This isn't spiritual bypassing. You're still going to have to cancel cards and maybe beg customer service bots for mercy. But beneath that, you're also choosing to release the deeper attachment. The one that whispers, this loss defines me. Want a quirky Stoic tidbit? Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, lost all his possessions in a shipwreck. Instead of cursing fate, he laughed and said, now I am on my way to becoming a philosopher. You don't need to lose a boatload of treasure to channel Zeno. A missing wallet and a moment of quiet will do. You begin to notice that the panic has transformed into something softer, an odd kind of clarity. What do you really need? Not stuff, not things to validate you, just your reasoned choice, your calm. your ability to move forward even when something falls away. You stand up, grab a notebook, and begin making a list. Call bank, replace ID, breathe. Somehow the last one feels the most urgent. And later, when your new cards arrive in the mail, and the whole thing is just a memory, you'll remember not the hassle, but the shift. The moment you remembered that nothing outside you was ever truly yours. Only your peace is permanent, and only if you protect it. You're staring at a text on your screen that reads, "Hey, we're getting together tonight, come hang." 8 p.m. at the usual spot. You scroll back to double check who sent it. Yep, it's that group, the one that always sounds fun until you're actually there dodging small talk and pretending to laugh at inside jokes you don't quite understand anymore. You hover your thumb over the reply button. Type, sure, then delete. Then type, maybe, delete again. Why is saying no harder than showing up to something you don't want to do? Then you remember what Seneca said. People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful. This is Stoic principle number 7. Protect your time like it's gold because it is. Every yes you give costs you something else. Every hour spent in a place you don't want to be is an hour you'll never get back. And yet historians still argue whether Seneca practiced what he preached. He was known to throw lavish parties and juggle political favors under Nero's reign, but maybe that's why he knew how dangerous it was to give away your time without thought, because he'd done it himself. You set your phone down. No reply yet? The silence feels heavy, like you're breaking an unspoken social contract. You picture their reactions. Why isn't she coming, or he's always bailing? But then, you realize something. You're not avoiding people. You're honoring your peace. You walk to your bookshelf, fingers skimming spines. Find that novel you've been meaning to read, the one you never have time for. You pour a glass of something chilled, light a candle, and sit back as the evening unfolds exactly the way you actually want it to. Fun Stoic trivia. Musonius Rufus. A Roman Stoic teacher once argued that a simple dinner at home with thoughtful reflection was more nourishing than any social feast. Not because he hated company, but because he believed clarity comes from quiet. And here you are in the quiet, no music blaring, no fake smiles, just the soft flicker of the candle and the sound of pages turning. You finally reply, "Thanks for the invite, I'm staying in tonight. Hope it's a great one." No excuses, no apologies, just truth. The truth that your time isn't refillable, that it's okay to say no, not because something else came up, but because nothing else had to. You raise your glass to no plans, to inner stillness, and to the radical act of choosing yourself over obligation. No one else needs to understand, but you do. And that's enough. You're sitting at the kitchen table, one plate, one fork, one chair pulled out. No music, no Netflix humming in the background, no clinking glasses or group laughter. Just you, a quiet room, and a simple dinner you actually took the time to make. You take a bite, chew slowly, no rush, and without warning, a surprising thought bubbles up. This feels nice. Not flashy, not memorable, but peaceful. Like finally remembering the lyrics to a song you didn't realize was stuck in your head. This is Stoic principle number 8. Self-sufficiency is a quiet kind of power. Seneca once said, "The greatest wealth is a poverty of wants." In other words, needing less isn't deprivation, it's liberation. And nowhere does that feel more real than when you're alone, not out of loneliness, but out of choice. Historians still argue whether Seneca, despite his wealth, practiced what he preached. He had villas, slaves, and influence, but he also spent long periods in solitude writing about simplicity like it was a sacred art form. Maybe he didn't always succeed, but maybe that's the point he tried. You take another bite. No one's watching. You don't need to impress, entertain, or justify. You can use too much salt, wear mismatched socks, and talk to the cat if you want. There's something holy about being enough for yourself. Here's a quirky Stoic tidbit. Cleanthes, another early Stoic, funded his philosophy studies by working as a night water carrier, essentially a bucket hauler. He didn't care how it looked. His dignity wasn't tied to perception. It was tied to knowing who he was, even in silence. You pour yourself some water. A sip tastes better when you're present for it. When you're not trying to be anywhere else or be anyone else or impress anyone sitting across from you, because no one is. And instead of emptiness, you feel space. The kind of space where thoughts settle, not scatter. Where you're no longer filling time, but actually living it. You remember the countless moments you filled with noise, scrolling, multitasking, numbing. But here now, with a modest plate and a calm mind, you wonder, what else have I been running from that's actually this gentle? You finish the meal. No clapping audience, no Instagram story, just dishes to wash and the warm weight of your own company. You don't need constant companionship to feel whole. You don't need endless content to feel stimulated. You don't need outside validation to feel real. You're enough as is, and tonight that truth is louder than any dinner party ever could be. You're standing at the bus stop, double-checking the schedule on your phone for the 5th time, even though deep down you already know the bus isn't coming. Not tonight. Some detour, some update you missed, some act of transit mischief has left you stranded with no plan B. You sigh, annoyed, checking maps, weighing your options. Call a ride. Wait an hour, cancel your plans entirely. But then, almost in slow motion, your shoulders drop. Your jaw unclenches. You take a deep breath, and something inside you says, maybe this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. That's amor fati, the Stoic principle that means love of fate. Not just accepting what happens, not just tolerating it, but actually embracing it like a friend you didn't expect at the party who ends up being the one that makes it memorable. Marcus Aurelius put it best, a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. Your canceled bus fuel, your bad date fuel, your ruined weekend fuel, if you let it be. Historians still argue whether Marcus wrote those lines during wartime or sleepless nights in a palace that rarely felt like home. But wherever he was, he wrote them not to impress anyone, just to survive with dignity. You look down the road. No headlights, no hurry. You start walking, not in frustration, but with curiosity. What happens when you don't resist the detour? When you let life reroute you instead of trying to wrestle it back into shape? Half a block later, you pass a park you've never noticed before. A couple of kids are kicking around a soccer ball under flickering lights. There's a food cart steaming in the corner, the smell of something fried and magical cutting through the night air. You weren't supposed to see any of this. But now you're here and strangely glad for it. Here's a fun Stoic quirk Epictetus used to tell his students to practice bad luck. Not to be gloomy, but so they'd learn how to dance with chaos instead of fear it. He believed that when you stop needing life to follow your script, you become unshakable. You buy something from the cart, fried plantains maybe, or a weird taco you'll dream about later. You sit on a nearby bench. No rush, no timeline. The detour became the destination. And you realize the only thing that turned this inconvenience into a gift was your permission. Your willingness to say, okay, life, let's see what you've got. You won't always get what you want. The plan will fall apart. The bus won't show up. The person won't call back. But if you keep your heart open, even just a crack, you might find something better, a story, a stillness, or just a strange little taco under the stars. That's amor fati. That's freedom. You're in bed now, one leg out of the blanket like a true chaotic neutral. The ceiling fan hums softly above, casting gentle shadows that move in lazy circles. Outside, the night is silent but alive, distant cars, a bark, a breeze brushing against the window like a whisper. Your phone is finally put away. Not just face down, not just on do not disturb, actually off. A small miracle. You breathe out long and slow. The day is over. And now in this final quiet moment, a thought drifts in. If this were my last day, would I be okay with it? That's Stoic principle number 10. Live each day as if it were your last, because one of them will be. Memento mori. Again, yes, but this isn't a funeral chant. It's a lullaby for the soul. A reminder not to sleepwalk through your life just because you assume tomorrow's waiting. Marcus Aurelius used to write to himself, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do, say, and think. A little dramatic maybe, but effective. Historians still argue whether those words were written from fear duty or quiet resolve. But there's no arguing how sobering and strangely beautiful they are. You roll to your side eyes, softening in the dark. You think about today. It wasn't flawless. You spilled coffee. You replied to a message later than you meant to. You maybe didn't say what you needed to say, but you also laughed once or twice. You showed up, even if just barely. You tried. And trying sincerely counts for more than most people admit. Here's a quirky Stoic tradition. Some practitioners wear rings or pendants engraved with tiny skulls, not as goth accessories, but as touchstones. Not morbid, just grounding. Just a little reminder you're alive. For now. Don't waste it. You think about tomorrow, but not too hard. Because right now you're here. You're safe. You're breathing. And life, whatever it is flowing gently through you like a tide that asks for nothing but presence. Not perfection, just presence. So if this were it, if this quiet little day were the final entry in your personal scroll, you'd want to know. You paid attention, that you didn't rush, that you looked people in the eyes, that you ate slowly, that you said thank you, that you were here fully, and tonight, you were. Now your breath softens, the muscles in your jaw relax. Even the thoughts in your mind, those busy little birds, begin to perch quietly, wings tucked in, no longer needing to flutter about. You've walked through a full map of the Stoic life tonight, not through grand speeches or heavy tomes, but through the small, lived moments that quietly shape the soul. A wet morning that became a meditation, a missed train that taught patience, a meal alone that turned into communion with yourself. And even now, this silence, this slow, golden quiet is a kind of wisdom all on its own. Let it hold you. There's nothing else you need to fix today, nothing more to prove. You've done enough. You are enough. As your thoughts dissolve like mist, carry just this one truth into sleep. You don't need to control everything, say everything, achieve everything. All you need is to meet each moment with care, with courage, with presence. And when you forget, you can return. The Stoics never demanded perfection, only honesty, effort, and the gentle discipline of beginning again. So breathe, soften, let go. You are safe, you are still, you are home.